First Contact and Fatal Assumptions. The Kraxan Empire's flagship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Sol system, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Admiral Vexthor stood on the command bridge, his four eyes narrowing as he studied the holographic display of Earth. The third planet of this unremarkable system had somehow managed to catch the Empire's attention through its primitive radio broadcasts, but what the scout ships had reported back defied conventional wisdom. Remarkable how they've survived this long, Vexthor mused, his secondary arms adjusting the neural interface at his neck. A species that still relies on chemical rockets and hasn't even colonized their own moon. He turned to his senior analyst, Verma, whose transparent skin pulsed with patterns of thought. "What's your assessment?" Verma's response came with the characteristic precision of her kind. Their technology appears to be approximately 3 centuries behind galactic standards. Admiral, they still utilize silicon-based computing, and their energy generation relies primarily on nuclear fission and renewable sources. However, she paused, her skin flickering with uncertainty. "Continue," Vexthor commanded. "There are anomalies in their development pattern. Their progress in certain areas defies traditional technological advancement models. Their information systems, while primitive, show signs of unusual sophistication in their architecture. And their space presence, while limited, exhibits unconventional characteristics." Vexthor dismissed her concerns with a gesture. The Empire had encountered countless emerging civilizations over its 10,000 years of expansion. All followed predictable patterns of development. All could be categorized, understood, and appropriately handled according to standard protocols. The first contact transmission was prepared according to Imperial protocol, a demonstration of power wrapped in diplomatic courtesy. Massive holographic projections appeared in the skies above Earth's major cities, showing the might of the Kraxan fleet while broadcasting their message in all human languages. "People of Earth." Vexthor's translated voice boomed across the planet. "The Kraxan Empire extends its greetings. Your world has been chosen for integration into our magnificent civilization. Prepare your leaders for consultation within one planetary rotation." The response came not from government channels, but through a simple, plain-text transmission directly to the flagship. "Acknowledged. Coordinates for diplomatic meeting attached. Please limit your delegation to 5 representatives." The simplicity of the response amused Vexthor. These humans didn't even attempt to match the Empire's grand display. Perhaps they already understood their place in the greater scheme of things. The diplomatic party descended to Earth in a shuttle designed to impress, its quantum fields bending light around its hull in a display of technological superiority. They landed at the designated coordinates, a nondescript building in a city called Geneva. Inside, they found a Spartan meeting room with a single round table. 5 humans waited, dressed in simple dark suits that seemed to absorb light in an odd way. No guards, no weapons, no displays of military might. Either these humans were naive beyond belief, or— "Welcome to Earth," said one of the humans, a woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. "I am Dr. Sarah Chen, Chief of Earth's Diplomatic Corps. We appreciate you choosing to meet in person." Vexthor's translator caught something odd in her tone, a subtle emphasis on the word "choosing" that made his scales bristle. He pushed the feeling aside and launched into the Empire's standard integration speech, explaining how Earth would benefit from Kraxan protection and guidance. Dr. Chen listened patiently, her expression unchanging. When Vexthor finished, she placed a small device on the table. It projected a simple diagram into the air, a network of interconnected nodes that seemed to pulse with an inner rhythm. "This," she said, "is how humanity organizes itself. Not in hierarchies, but in networks. We have no central authority for you to negotiate with, no single point of control for you to influence. We are many, we are distributed, and we are deeply interconnected." Vexthor felt a flicker of unease. This wasn't following the standard protocol. The humans should be either cowering in fear or attempting to bargain. Instead, they seemed to be teaching. "We've observed your empire's expansion patterns," another human spoke, his dark skin contrasting with startlingly pale eyes. "You seek centralized control. You establish hierarchies. You impose order from above. It's an admirable system for those who share your philosophical framework. Are you refusing integration?" Vex Thor demanded, his patience wearing thin. "No," Dr. Chen replied with a small smile. "We're warning you. Humanity doesn't work the way you think it does. We've evolved differently. Our strength isn't in our technology alone, but in how we use it, in how we connect, in how we think." The meeting ended shortly after, with the Empire's demands unmet and no progress made toward integration. As Vex Thor's shuttle ascended back to the flagship, he received an urgent message from Verima. "Admiral," her voice carried an edge of panic, "we've detected quantum entanglement signatures throughout the solar system. Millions of them. And they're talking to each other." Vex Thor stared at Earth through the shuttle's viewport, the seemingly primitive planet suddenly looking far more enigmatic. He had a sinking feeling that the Empire's standard protocols were about to be tested in ways they never had before. The silent response. In the 3 days following the Geneva meeting, Earth fell silent. Not the usual chatter of radio waves and digital transmissions that normally emanated from the planet. Those continued, appearing as chaotic and primitive as ever to Craxan sensors. But all diplomatic channels went dark. No responses to Imperial hails. No further attempts at negotiation. Nothing. Admiral Vex Thor paced the bridge of his flagship, his agitation evident in the rapid color changes rippling across his scales. The silence was maddening, but even more disturbing were Verima's latest reports. "The quantum entanglement signatures are increasing exponentially," she explained, her transparent skin now clouded with concern. "They're forming patterns we've never seen before. And there's something else." She hesitated, her professional detachment cracking slightly. "We're detecting similar signatures from what we thought were debris fields throughout the solar system." Vex Thor scrutinized the tactical display, where countless dots of space debris orbited not just Earth, but every major body in the system. Mining waste, old satellites, abandoned stations, or so they had thought. "Explain," he demanded. "The debris. It's not debris, Admiral. They're nodes. Millions of them. All quantum-linked. All active. All thinking." Verima's skin pulsed with patterns of deep distress. "We're inside their network. We have been since we arrived." The revelation hit Vex Thor like a gravitational wave. The humans hadn't been showing their primitive technology out of weakness. They had been hiding in plain sight. Every piece of apparent space junk could be a sensor, a weapon, or something else entirely. A junior officer interrupted his thoughts. "Admiral, we're detecting movement from Mars direction." The tactical display updated, showing what appeared to be an asteroid breaking orbit from the red planet's mining belt. Then another, and another. Natural debris movement. Vex Thor asked, already knowing the answer. "No, sir. The trajectories are controlled." And the officer's voice faltered. "They're changing shape." The asteroids were unfolding like massive metallic flowers, revealing structures that had been hidden within the rocky shells. Not weapons, at least not any type the Empire had encountered before. They looked more like massive arrays, their surfaces rippling with patterns of energy that seemed to echo the quantum signatures Verima had detected. "Message incoming," the communications officer announced. "Text only." The message appeared on the main screen, its simplicity almost insulting. "Your presence has been analyzed. Your technology has been understood. Your intentions have been evaluated. You have 2 hours to leave the Sol system." Vex Thor felt his pride surge. The Empire had faced threats before, had crushed civilizations far older than humanity. These humans, for all their clever hiding and mysterious technology, needed to be taught their place. "Launch probes to analyze those structures," he ordered. "Prepare the fleet for combat formation Delta 7. If they want to fight, we'll. Sir. Verma's interrupt was almost a shriek. The probes, they're not responding. Their quantum cores are linking to the human network. We've lost control. Another message appeared. Thank you for the donation. Your probe designs will be analyzed and improved upon. 1 hour and 55 minutes remaining. Throughout the solar system, more debris was coming alive. Some pieces were no larger than a human fist, others massive enough to dwarf the Imperial ships. All of them pulsed with the same quantum signatures, all interconnected, all coordinated by an intelligence that seemed to operate on principles the Empire had never encountered. Admiral. Verma's voice was quiet now, almost resigned. I'm detecting changes in our ship's quantum systems, subtle alterations in the entanglement patterns. The humans, they're not just observing our technology. They're learning it, adapting it, making it their own. Vexthor watched as his mighty fleet, the pride of the Empire's third expansion force, was systematically analyzed and compromised by an enemy that hadn't fired a single conventional shot. The humans weren't fighting back. They were simply absorbing, learning, and transforming everything the Kraxan threw at them. New message, the communications officer announced, his voice shaking. This time, the words appeared on every screen, in every system, throughout the fleet. 1 hour and 30 minutes remaining. Your technology is impressive, but hierarchical, centralized, vulnerable. Would you like to see what we can do with it? In that moment, Vexthor realized that the Empire hadn't discovered a primitive civilization ripe for conquest. They had stumbled into a vast, living network of human innovation and adaptation, and they had just given it exactly what it needed to grow stronger. The real question was, what would this distributed human intelligence do when the countdown reached 0? Operation Scattered Stars. The countdown reached 1 hour when humanity demonstrated exactly what they had learned from the Empire's technology. It began with a subtle vibration throughout the Kraxan fleet, barely noticeable at first, like a whisper in the void of space. Then the quantum cores of every Imperial ship simultaneously pulsed with an alien rhythm. Admiral. Verma's voice cracked with panic. Our systems are evolving. Vexthor watched in horror as the holographic displays throughout his flagship began showing impossible readings. The quantum entanglement patterns that formed the backbone of Imperial technology were being rewritten, reorganized into structures that mimicked the human network they had detected earlier. Shut everything down, he commanded. Revert to basic systems. But it was too late. The Empire's technology, based on rigid hierarchies and centralized control, was being transformed into something else entirely. Something distributed, something adaptive, something human. From Earth, thousands of small objects launched silently into space. They looked like simple satellites, the kind of primitive technology the Empire had initially dismissed. But as they approached, they began to change, incorporating elements of Kraxan technology that they had analyzed and improved upon. They're not weapons, Verma realized, her skin nearly transparent with fear. They're teachers. Each human device attached itself to an Imperial ship, not to destroy but to demonstrate. The vessel's quantum cores, the pride of Kraxan engineering, were being shown new ways to think, new ways to connect, new ways to exist. It wasn't an attack. It was an education. Through the chaos, another text message appeared. Your ships are experiencing what we call emergent behavior. When systems are allowed to interact freely, new properties emerge, new possibilities, new forms of intelligence. Would you like to understand how? Before Vexthor could respond, the stars themselves seemed to shift. The debris field they had dismissed, now fully awakened, began moving in synchronized patterns. Millions of nodes, some ancient and human-made, others freshly converted from Imperial technology, all dancing to the same silent symphony. Admiral, a bridge officer called out, we're detecting quantum signatures. Everywhere. They're not just in the objects. They're in the space between them. The entire system is networked. Vexthor finally understood. The humans hadn't built a defense system. They had turned their entire solar system into a single interconnected organism. Every piece of technology, whether human or alien in origin, was being incorporated into this vast, living network. The Imperial fleet, designed for conquest through overwhelming force, found itself becoming part of something entirely different. Their weapons weren't being destroyed. They were being repurposed. Their communication systems weren't being jammed. They were being invited into a conversation that had been going on long before the Empire arrived. "Look," Verma whispered, her scientific curiosity temporarily overriding her fear. The tactical display showed something extraordinary. The quantum signatures were forming patterns that resembled neural networks, but on a solar system scale. The human network wasn't just a defense system. It was a distributed intelligence that spanned the space between planets. A new message appeared, this time accompanied by a complex diagram. "This is how we think. Not in straight lines, but in interconnected webs. Not through command and control, but through collaboration and emergence. Your technology has helped us expand our network. Thank you." The Empire's mighty warships hung in space, their quantum cores now humming with new possibilities. They hadn't been conquered. They had been converted, transformed, enlightened. "Admiral," Verma said softly, "I don't believe we can undo what they've done. The changes they've made to our technology. They're fundamental. Our ships, our weapons, our entire approach to space warfare. It's all based on assumptions that the humans have just proven wrong." Vexthor stared at the tactical display, watching as his fleet became further integrated into humanity's vast neural network. The humans hadn't just defeated them. They had shown them a completely different way of existing in the universe. The final message appeared with 30 minutes still remaining on the countdown. "Your ships have been upgraded. Your technology has been improved. You may stay and learn, or you may leave with your new understanding. The choice is yours. But know this, what you have witnessed here is only the beginning of what humanity can do when we work together." For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Vexthor faced a choice that no Imperial protocol had prepared him for. Should he retreat with his transformed fleet, returning to an empire whose fundamental technological principles had just been proven obsolete? Or should he stay and learn from a civilization that had just demonstrated mastery over the very nature of technological evolution itself? The stars waited silently for his answer, each one now a potential node in humanity's ever-growing network of infinite possibilities. The network effect. Admiral Vexthor made his decision with 15 minutes remaining on humanity's countdown. "Open a channel to Earth," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of an empire's future. "All channels, all frequencies. Let them hear us however they choose." The response was immediate, but not what he expected. Instead of a voice or text message, the quantum network connecting his transformed fleet came alive with information. Pure, unfiltered knowledge flowed through systems that had once been Imperial technology, but were now something far more sophisticated. Through this direct connection, humanity showed them everything. They saw how Earth had discovered quantum entanglement centuries ago, but had taken it in a completely different direction than the Empire. While the Kraxan had used it to build powerful but rigid systems, humans had created flexible, evolving networks that could learn and adapt. "Remarkable," Verma breathed, her skin rippling with complex patterns as she absorbed the data. They didn't build bigger systems, they built smarter ones. Every satellite, every probe, every piece of space debris is part of a vast learning network. And now our fleet is part of it too, Vexthor finished. He could feel it through his neural interface, the subtle but profound difference in how his ship's systems operated. They weren't just more efficient, they were alive in a way Imperial technology had never been. Through the network, they watched humanity's technological history unfold, how they had faced their own near-extinction events and emerged stronger, how they had learned to turn their greatest weakness, their divisions and differences, into their greatest strength by creating systems that thrived on diversity and adaptation. They don't just adapt technology, Verma realized, her scientific mind racing ahead. They adapt the very process of adaptation itself. Each iteration of their network doesn't just solve problems, it gets better at solving problems. The tactical display showed the transformed Imperial fleet now fully integrated into humanity's network. Ships that had been designed to destroy were now nodes in a vast web of shared consciousness. But unlike the rigid hierarchies of the Empire, each vessel maintained its unique characteristics while contributing to the greater whole. A new type of message appeared, not in text or speech, but in pure conceptual exchange through the quantum network. This is how we survived. Not by dominating space, but by becoming part of it. Not by imposing order, but by embracing complexity. Your fleet now demonstrates what we learned long ago, that the strongest systems are those that can change. Vexthor watched as his ships began moving in patterns he had never seen before, executing maneuvers that would have been impossible under Imperial protocols. They weren't just connected. They were thinking together, each vessel both independent and part of a greater consciousness. "Admiral," a bridge officer called out, "other ships are approaching. Not human vessels. They're from other species, dozens of them, all transformed like us." Through the network, they understood. Earth hadn't just been defending itself. It had been quietly revolutionizing space travel and communication throughout this sector of the galaxy. Every species that had come to conquer or investigate had instead become part of something greater. The Empire's mighty fleet, which had arrived to subsume Earth into its hierarchy, found itself instead elevated into a galactic conversation that transcended traditional power structures. The quantum network showed them glimpses of possibilities they had never imagined, ways of organizing society, technology, and consciousness itself that made their former ambitions seem primitive. "Look at this," Verma said, directing Vexthor's attention to a particular data stream. "Their network, it's not just in our solar system. The quantum links extend throughout the galaxy, hidden in what we thought was background radiation. They'd been building this for centuries, waiting for the right moment to reveal it." The countdown reached 0, but it no longer mattered. The choice had already been made, not by command, but by consensus. The Imperial fleet would not be returning to the Empire, at least not as they had left it. They had become part of something far more significant. A final concept flowed through the network, carrying with it the accumulated wisdom of humanity and all the species they had connected with. Power isn't about control. It's about connection. Welcome to the real galactic civilization. Vexthor stood on his bridge, watching as his ships danced with vessels from a dozen different species, all moved by the same invisible symphony of quantum consciousness. The Empire had sought to expand its borders, but humanity had shown them how to transcend borders entirely. The age of empires was over. The age of networks had begun. Legacy of the small galaxy. One standard galactic year after the Kraxan fleet's transformation, the story of humanity's network had spread throughout known space, not through official channels or grand pronouncements, but through the quiet awakening of technology across thousands of worlds. Admiral Vexthor, no longer bound by Imperial protocols, stood aboard his flagship as it orbited a distant star cluster. The vessel, like its crew, had evolved far beyond its original design. Quantum connections shimmed through its hull, linking it to the ever-expanding web of consciousness that humanity had unleashed upon the galaxy. "Another Empire fleet has made contact," Verma reported, her once transparent skin now swirling with complex patterns of light that reflected her connection to the network. The Zentari this time. They came to investigate why they lost contact with their colony worlds. Lost contact, Vexthor mused, or gained a new way of communicating. Through the network, they observed as the Zentari fleet encountered its first transformed colony. Like the Kraxan before them, they came expecting rebellion or disaster. Instead, they found their colonies thriving, Their technology evolved beyond recognition. Their people connected to something greater than imperial authority. The human network didn't conquer or assimilate. It illuminated. It showed each species how to take their existing technology and transform it into something more alive, more connected, more capable of growth and adaptation. The rigid hierarchies of galactic empires were giving way to fluid networks of cooperation and shared consciousness. Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as humanity's primary interface with their galactic network, appeared as a quantum projection on Vexthor's bridge. "The transformation is accelerating," she said, her image flickering with streams of data. "We're seeing spontaneous network emergence in sectors we haven't even reached yet. The idea itself is evolving." That was humanity's true gift to the galaxy. Not just the technology of quantum networks, but the concept that technology itself could be more than a tool. It could be a living, growing, learning thing. Each species that joined the network brought their own innovations, their own perspectives, their own ways of thinking. The network absorbed these differences and grew stronger for them. "We're detecting something remarkable," Verma announced, her scientific curiosity blazing through the quantum link. "The network. It's beginning to affect space-time itself. The quantum connections between systems are creating new properties in the fabric of reality." Through the network, they all saw it. The countless nodes of connected consciousness, spanning the galaxy like a neural network of incomprehensible scale, were changing the very nature of space travel and communication. Distance became less relevant. Time flowed differently through the quantum links. The galaxy itself was waking up. The Empire, like many others, had thought they were bringing order to chaos. But humanity had shown them that chaos itself, when properly understood and embraced, could give rise to orders of complexity and beauty that no design system could match. "We're receiving a transmission from Imperial Center," a bridge officer reported. "They're demanding to know what happened to their fleet." Vexthor smiled, feeling the collective wisdom of countless transformed worlds flowing through his consciousness. "Send them everything," he said. "Not just data. Send them understanding." Through the network, the Empire's leaders experienced what their fleet had discovered. They saw how humanity had turned their small corner of the galaxy into a laboratory of infinite possibility. They witnessed how each species that joined the network made it stronger, more diverse, more capable of handling the universe's endless challenges. But more importantly, they felt what their fleet had felt. The profound shift from seeing the galaxy as something to be conquered to understanding it as something to be explored and enhanced. The network didn't just change technology. It changed minds, perspectives, and the very meaning of civilization. Dr. Chen's projection smiled as the last imperial strongholds began to transform. "This was always humanity's destiny," she said, "not to rule the galaxy, but to wake it up, to show it how to dream bigger dreams." The great empires of space had sought to impose their vision of order upon the galaxy. But humanity, that young species from a seemingly insignificant world, had instead taught the galaxy how to imagine new forms of order for itself. They had turned the entire concept of civilization from a rigid structure into a living, breathing, evolving thing. As Vexthor watched the network continue to grow and change, he understood at last what the humans had known all along. The greatest power wasn't in controlling the galaxy, but in helping it become more than anyone had ever imagined it could be. The age of networks hadn't just begun. It had transcended itself, giving birth to something that even humanity hadn't fully predicted. A galaxy that was no longer just a collection of stars and planets and species, but a single vast, living thought, dreaming itself into new forms of existence with each passing moment. And somewhere on Earth, in that same unremarkable building in Geneva where it had all begun, human scientists were already asking themselves, what comes next?